Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a post-match pint in association with Purity Ale. If you use the code #VillaView, you'll get 10% off everything good that Purity has to offer. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Neil from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Would never, ever be late for his own podcast, but he's late for ours. But Neil, we don't care too much because finally, for the first time since we were young nippers, Villa have beat Manchester United. Absolute scenes at Villa Park today.
Absolutely. What a good feeling. What a good way, I suppose, to introduce Unai Emery into the back into the Premier League with Aston Villa. And it's like everything was stacked against us. The deck was stacked against us. 3 days of coaching was all we had under Unai Emery. And, I think a lot of people were just looking to see if there was any kind of green shoots of recovery. But I don't think anybody could have expected the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes that we put out, going 2-0 up, and then obviously losing a goal just before halftime, and then obviously that goal from Jacob Ramsey then just after halftime, and it was an enjoyable game. Then it became always, I suppose, how will I put it? There was always in the back of your mind that United were going to do United against Aston Villa, and we're going to come back, and that they were going to they were going to put us to the sword. But Villa looked to be comfortable for a finish in the game, and as I say, there's a lot of people there that wouldn't have 27 years is a long time, so there's a lot of people there who may have never seen Aston Villa beat Manchester United at home, and like I saw that lovely post you put up as well about a picture of yourself and your dad, and you were saying that it was what, you were 9 last time it happened.
Ridiculous. In that same seat. No, you know what my dad said to me at the end of the game? It's not a bit morbid, actually. He said, "I can die now." He was just so pleased that we'd finally beat Manchester United. I did remind him that he hasn't. I don't think he's seen Villa win the FA Cup, so he probably wants to wait for that until he dies. But just an unbelievable day. Like, the atmosphere was top class. Villa were top class. The coaching staff and the manager were top class. Just the audio before the game, the tannoy was not top class. I still have my ears ringing from how loud the speakers were at Villa Park before the game started. If you were there, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. But just not, you say about them looking well coached, and John Steele's in the live chat now saying you just saw a properly coached Villa team working in triangles and for the most part stuck to their task. He's absolutely right. You're saying he'd only been in 3 days worth of coaching. So more coaching in that, like evident. See more coaching evidence on that pitch than I've seen in the last 12 months from any other Villa manager. So it was just ridiculous, really, how good they were. And we knew before the game that Emery, he liked to have plans for different games. He'd sets his teams up different formation, different personnel, different styles of pressing, different styles of tempo and whatnot, depending on the opponent. The way he set Villa up today was just like nothing I've ever seen. If you were watching him on the sideline as well, he was literally coaching that entire game. He did not stop communicating with the players, and you just looked at the shape. The shape felt like it was constantly changing. There was an evident formation and setup on the ball that then changed when they were off the ball. Jacob Ramsey's position seemed to change so frequently from what it was on the ball and what it was off the ball. It was just really, really interesting, and I found myself I was loving the game, obviously, but I found myself engrossed in the way Villa was set up and the way they were playing. Almost when Manchester United had the ball, I found it more interesting just watching how Villa set themselves up. I can't even begin to explain it. I'd have to watch it back again, but live at the game at Villa Park, I just found the whole thing fascinating. I don't know how it came across on however you were watching it, Neil, but that was my main takeaway from the game. I was just fascinated by it tactically.
Yeah, at halftime, I looked up on who scored, and I was looking at some statistics there from the game, and I was actually blown away to see. I think it was just coming up to halftime. Things like then Donker had only had 11 touches of the ball, like it was 44 minutes gone or something like that. I can't remember how much time, but it was coming close to halftime, and I remember being blown away by that. But because while yes, he didn't get on the ball, he was a presence in the middle of midfield that was forcing Manchester United to have to go wide, or it was forcing Manchester United to have to go around him. And he, like, as I say, it just goes to show that when you've got a team that is set up well, and the Docker being point in case didn't do anything, like, you could have been forgiven for thinking that he wasn't playing for parts of that first half, only for the fact that he dominated a specific square, a patch of grass on that field, and people had to go around him. And it was little things like that, because like how many times have we seen, even over since we've been promoted back to the Premier League, like our midfield has just been so passive. The teams could go through us, or they could go around us, no problem whatsoever in that midfield. But I thought today that there was a small bit of a staggering of our midfield, and it kind of slowed down that Manchester United attack a small bit more. But it wasn't that our players were giving 20% or 30% more effort. It was just a kind of a situation whereby there was a feeling that they knew what they were doing a small bit better, if that makes sense. And I thought Dundalk was a point in case with regards to that. Played the full 90 minutes, and like genuinely, I can't even think of one thing he did with the ball at his feet. But I can remember times when he stopped passing lanes and he forced people to go wide as well. So that's just something that I picked up. I'm looking forward to seeing it back tomorrow again when it's available on Villa TV. I can't wait to watch it and to see and to see that how the team did stack up like that as well.
Yeah, you've got those websites. I don't know what they're called. The company's called, where you can sign up and you can watch 90 minutes of games, but from a higher angle. I'm going to do that for this game, because I feel like I need to look at it, because it was just amazing when we kicked off. I was saying to my dad, 4-4-2, Bailey's playing up front, and then 1 minute later I was like, no, not 4-4-2.
It was 4-2.
What was it? But when we didn't have the ball, I was watching Bailey and Watkins, and they were the two that stayed forward throughout the whole game. But they'd spread wide when we didn't have the ball, and it made the Manchester United centre backs, they didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. It made them uncomfortable, and it always gave us an outlet on the break. And then Buendia would come back and defend, but then attacking wise, he seemed to float around. I actually think we had a formation today in some ways. It was fascinating. Honestly, I don't keep saying the same word over and over again, but I just found it amazing to watch, because I've never ever watched Villa play like that. I've been going down for 30 years, pretty much. I've never sat there and just thought everything was so tactical and that everything was so measured in what they were doing. It was just so switched on, and it's just not what I've become used to. No disrespect to anyone else that's ever taken charge of Aston Villa, but I've never seen Villa operate in that manner, where I've just thought, this is incredible what we're doing here. It was one of my favourite games that I've ever been to. I've been to a hell of a lot of games at Villa Park. That was right up there today, because I've wanted us to beat Manchester United for a long time. It was just the way we did it, though. I felt like I was sat there. I don't know, it's only one game. I'm not trying to go over the top of it, but I just felt like I was watching a proper team. And I don't know when the last time was that I felt that way, even when we were good under Martin O'Neill. You never sat there and thought, tactically, we're brilliant here, because we weren't really. We were just we were a good team. We went out and enjoyed ourselves, played 4-4-2, had a bit of pace, and won a lot of games. But this today was just something different. It was unbelievable now.
And that post that was just shared up on the screen, I think, was very much the reason why we were able to play with a fluidity in getting people into those channels, trying to get out wide. Remember when you guys did the post-match show for Brentford, and it's amazing what a bit of pace and a bit of width can do. And what we were doing is we were rotating players into those wide positions, specifically targeting Luke Shaw. And once again, I've only seen the game live on TV. I'm looking forward to looking back at it
and
again.
You're very hungover.
As we mentioned, and I was extremely hungover. Exactly. I drank my body weight last night. So but we targeted Luke Shaw very much so in the first half. Bailey was running at him, and Buendia was coming across, was going at him from there as well, and they were rotating Ramsey in through the center too. And I think that was the game plan, was to really kind of pick on somebody. Luke Shaw had Manchester United's actually had the most touches in the whole game at halftime at 51 touches. But he was literally had to defend, and he was trying to be that outlet ball going forward for Manchester United. When they did have their purple patch, they did attack down that wing as well. But we hammered the hammer, and we went down straight at Luke Shaw, and we got great guns from it. We got great field position from it, and it allowed us then to spread out players a bit more. And a lot of the time during the game as well, and I mentioned about the fluidity there, our Giggs Sharna mentioned about the fluidity of Ramsey, Buendia and Bailey there. And a lot of times during the game, specifically in the first half, when we were attacking down there, we were just playing a raking ball to spray the state where, like, our point of attack all the way across to the other side as well. Like, there was a couple of times where Watkins would peel off, and literally we would just play a long ball across the field to get everybody shuffling across as well. So it was something different. It's something that Aston Villa hadn't done much before. We did look to switch the point of attack, or the player, should I say, who was going to be that point of attack if it wasn't the point of attack itself. And as I say, Manchester United couldn't deal with it when we were counter-attacking at pace.
Now, I've sat there a number of times over the years and lambasted Villa's lack of movement, just not understanding why players can't find any space. But the way Villa moved the ball today and the way they operate, at times I couldn't believe how much space a player would receive the ball in. It was. I've never ever seen Villa play with that kind of movement ever. Players would, they do. I don't even know how to explain it, which isn't great for someone who's hosting a podcast. But the players would do. They'd move the ball, be looking like they're just keeping the ball, passing it around, moving it nicely, and then suddenly all these rotations and the movement. Digne, for example, would just have acres on the left, and a raking pass would find him. But this was happening. That's just one example. This was happening all over the pitch. Players would pick up the ball in space and be able to drive. And I was just, again, amazed, because I've always sat there and thought, well, there's no movement ever. No players move. No one ever finds any space. I don't understand it. I watch other teams all the time in the Premier League, and their players seem to be able to pick up space. It does come down again to the well-coached thing. Villa looked not just well-coached, it looked unbelievably well-coached.
They did, and one of the things that, and I forgot to mention it a moment ago as well, one of the things that Villa did today that they haven't done in, I'd say it could be since we were in the Championship, was we ran past the ball, and we were comfortable with doing that. So there was triangles being played in the middle of midfield. Saw a message popped up a moment ago just mentioning that. That's something I noticed early on, was we were playing triangles to try and get people free and move players out of position. But running past, like Ramsey and Buendia are really good at running past that ball again, or give and goes, and that really opens up the space for Aston Villa. Like Jacob Ramsey was by far and away the man of match for me today. I didn't even see that he got man of match when I was doing my post match podcast, and I was raving about him. The fact he was dropping into those little half spaces, coming deep, but not so deep that he would have been like a pivot type player or be as far back as a Douglas Luiz or Dendoncker, but he was coming into that position whereby it was causing kind of consternation between the left back and the midfielder as to who was going to pick him up, and that was causing confusion there. And more often than not, he was able to get that with his back to goal, play a little give and go, or even recycle it back into the centre and then run past the ball again. And it was so simple, but it's something Aston Villa haven't done an awful lot, and hopefully, as I say, that it's something that they can perfect and they can go on to use. We saw the team do a small bit of that again under Steven Gerrard when he first came into the club last season.
Not like today, though.
No, definitely not. But I'm talking about those triangles. But we certainly couldn't perfect it within the team. But I have a lot more confidence that Unai Emery will be able to perfect that within the team going forward. And it's exciting. And if we play some football like that, well, hell, there'll be a lot of people wanting to come back, and that season ticket list will start to grow longer and longer for bums and seats in Villa Park.
It's pretty big, that list already. In fact, I think we might have been talking over each other there a little bit. I think there was an internet connection issue because you were frozen on my screen. So there's every chance we were talking over a little bit each other a little bit in that last segment. So apologies for that. What I was trying to say to you, I don't know whether you heard me, was that first goal, just there's movement again, and then the ball ends up coming through to Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey's a good finisher.
That was a great finish.
Something that's been perhaps overlooked. The goals he scored this season, he's taken them very well. And he's had off games. I'm not saying he hasn't, but I've said all along, there is an absolute player there. I know there is, because I've watched him play in the Bundesliga many times, and I know he's a frightening player on his day. Today, he's touching his control, the way when he's dribbling with the ball. He caused Manchester United all kinds of problems. And actually, when he went through on goal, I never for 1 second thought he was going to miss. He usually hits the target, Leon Bailey, and he found that corner expertly. It was a lovely goal now.
It was. The weight of that pass from Jacob Ramsey was
perfect.
Absolutely sensational as well. Perfect pass. It was Fabregas type little slide it down the side of the defender pass. I don't rate Lindelof. Look, he's he's fine. He's a fine defender, but he was somebody that we could have targeted, and we did target him when we went through the center as well. Lisandro Martinez is a pretty decent center half. Probably should have gotten some sort of retribution or sanction, should I say, from the referee.
No, here we go. Sorry, I lost you again.
Did you?
there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
The internet dropout. Carry on.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that Lisandro Martinez was played pretty well for Manchester United today, albeit he did have a couple of dirty moments. But going back to Leon Bailey is a good finisher of the ball, and he showed that. Just kind of dinked it over De Gea's. Can't remember, was it his foot or was it his arm? But it was a perfect finish.
De Gea usually goes with his feet. It was his feet. It was his feet. I've seen it back.
Yeah, it was a perfect finish into the corner. And long may he continue to score goals, because he's got all the potential in the world, Leon Bailey. And it's about time that we're able to unlock that from one of our players. So well done to him.
Yeah, no, I think Manchester United were a bit shell shocked by Villa's start. We said in the preview that very difficult to know how Villa are going to line up, and that we thought that might be something that caused Manchester United problems, in that you can't really. They shell-shocked Manchester United. I thought they struggled after that first goal went in. I thought Manchester United looked frightened, and we've ended up, winning the free kick from pressing. Jacob Ramsey took a big touch and won the free kick. I don't think Lukaden's got any right to really be putting that in from that angle. Really, I will say, from where I was sat in the whole end, I don't know whether this translated on TV. That wall looked about 15 yards back. That was never 10 yards. I said straight away that's never 10 yards to my dad. I was like, it looks about 15, 20 yards more than 10. It's a lovely free kick from Lukaden. I mean, we haven't scored direct from a set piece for so long. Last time we did was, well, I counted, but it doesn't count, was Conor Harahan against Newcastle the season we got promoted. That doesn't count because Grealish rolled the ball to him first. So he's the first player to score a free kick since. It's not looking good, is it?
Oh, got you back again there.
Are you losing me? I mean, we'll have to do some admin mid-show here. Are you losing me as well? Because you're just frozen on my screen.
I'm losing you. So I heard up until you said that Jack Grealish rolled it to Conor Harahan and then cut out after that.
Yeah, so that was the last time. In my mind, that was the last time we scored a Premier League free kick, which is a long time ago. But I think factually, I believe it was Benteke. For against QPR under Tim Sher was last time we scored a free kick in the Premier League. Oh, that's frightening. But Lukaden, he's obviously not been available for the last month or so. I don't think he had a great start to the season, but it was an unbelievable free kick. I don't think he's got any right to be putting it in from there, but it was inch perfect.
Yeah. Oh, it was beauty right in the top corner. That's, you can't, like, he has another 100 goals at that. He doesn't get it into that perfect position again. So it's fair play to him. I equated it to like Beckham's free kick against Greece, except it was on the left-hand side and it was on the right-hand side of the box and from a left-footed player. He got it into that postage stamp area within the goals. And I don't know why, but you mentioned there that when the free kick has been taken, you saw the wall was further back than 10 yards. I spotted that as well. And for some strange reason, before he even took the free kick, I was like, I think he's going to score this.
I had a strange feeling as well. I had that strange feeling.
It was, thank God it was, because I actually thought it initially went wide until watching it on TV, and then all of a sudden it panned over to Luka Dean and he was celebrating. I was like, oh, brilliant, he's after scoring a goal. From those angles, sometimes it hits the side netting and it looks like it's gone into the back of the net, and I was convinced that that's what happened there, but no, it was absolutely brilliant. And where has that been? Where has Luka Dean's free kick taking ability been? If Coutinho was on the field, I guarantee you he has a goal, or he's the man who's tasked to have taken that free kick there. And
we haven't attacked enough to get free kicks in dangerous positions. I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? We weren't picking up free kicks in dangerous areas because we weren't attacking well. You attack well, you win free kicks, and good players can perhaps step up and score, and that's what's happened today. I mean, Villa were that first 25 minutes were brilliant. I think we did tire a little bit. There was a phase where I think we got tired, and Manchester United came in the game, and Emi Martinez made a couple of said, "Neil, can you stop?
Yes.
Don't sit there like that, Neil. When we've had
Okay, so
freezing
I
issues,
keep
you got to
moving
keep
just so
moving. You got to keep moving like Villa were today, because otherwise it makes me think that we're frozen." But we tired. We sat in perhaps a little bit. Emi Martinez had to make a couple of saves. The one from Ronaldo's header I thought was particularly
brilliant. Yeah.
an excellent save. And they get their customary lucky goal on half time, and you think, oh God, this is typical. I can think of 3 games off the top of my head where Villa have been 2-0 up against Manchester United and not won the game. I was thinking, here we go again, and we've been absolutely brilliant. But then they rest, 15 minutes rest at half time. And to be fair to the players, you should say they shouldn't be tired, but they were operating at high intensity for that first 25 minutes, half an hour. That's not easy to maintain. There's always going to be a little bit of a drop off. Manchester United got a fluky goal. It's going nowhere near the goal Luke Shaw shot. I believe it's gone down as a Jacob Ramsey own goal, actually. But then after half time, Jacob Ramsey scores a goal very similar to the goal he scored against Leeds at Villa Park last season. But that's not an easy finish. He's got a lot of bodies to get through there. That is a crazy good finish from Jacob Ramsey into the top corner. De Gea, I don't want to use the term shell shocked again. De Gea reaction to it was again. He looked absolutely shell shocked. Couldn't believe what he'd seen.
Yeah, what a finish! Absolutely brilliant. Like, credit goes to go to Ollie Watkins for his work down that left hand side.
I thought Watkins was. I mean, they were all good today, but I thought Watkins was good today.
Yeah, his hold up play was better. It still needs a bit of work, but I certainly thought it was better. I liked how they isolated him on Martinez and Lisandro Martinez a bit. Specifically, I suppose just from it was a better matchup height wise, but he was able to spin off the defender. I can't remember who it was. It might be Martinez. Spin off, and then he was able to take it down the left wing. But his cutback was just beautiful. He could have cut it back to Buendia, could have cut it back to Bailey, but he cut it back to Ramsey, and Ramsey just arrows it into the top corner. I mean, like, they're the ones that, they're the ones that we see in the social media posts from Aston Villa at training, and we never see in games until today. So I was absolutely delighted to see that one hit the back of the net. And as I say, I thought Jacob Ramsey was really running the show, and he went on then to have an even more solid performance. And I thought he was very, very worthy recipient of the Man of the Match award.
And then really, you think Manchester United might come back into it at some stage. And again, they huffed and puffed a little bit, Manchester United, without really creating anything too clear cut. Villa defended very, very well. I thought Mings was an absolute titan the entire game. The way in the first half, in particular, he deals with the aerial stuff. It's just a sight to behold. At times, it's an absolute disgrace the way he was treated in August by someone who had absolutely no credit in the bank at Aston Villa Football Club. Felt like he was trying to force out someone who's been a massive part of what's been good about Aston Villa in the last 3-4 years, especially since we got promoted. Someone who's been a big part of Aston Villa, someone who a lot of the fans genuinely adore, and I'm one of them. You watch him today and you think he's absolutely brilliant, because he was absolutely phenomenal, Tyrone Mings at the back. And I look back to August now, when there was all that hurrah around him, and I just think, how unnecessary was that, and what right did Steven Gerrard have to do? Not so much the change in the captaincy. I'm not talking about that, because a manager should be able to change his captain if he believes that's the best thing for the team. But it felt personal. There was some thinly veiled attacks on him. The language used against Mings wasn't brilliant. And then there was a bit of a backtrack as well, because we didn't obviously start the season great. But I watched Tyrone Mings today, and I just think, what an impressive guy. And I think back to August, and I just think, that was just an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, and like, just getting on to the point there that you mentioned that manager can change the captain if he likes. He dropped the club captain today. John McGinn didn't start today, and Martinez took the armband. So, like, there's ways and means of doing all this, and like, as you said, it didn't set off the season on a good trajectory when it was so public and as you said, veiled, like it was when Steven Gerrard took the captaincy off him. But absolute hands down to him, he's been probably our most consistent performer this season, outside of Ashley Young. And I think that if you were to ask for player of the season so far, he probably is up there in the top 3, whether people think he's done enough to be our player of the season so far. He's definitely been consistent enough. Yeah, he's had his odd mistake here and there, but you show me somebody on this team that hasn't. So fair play to Tyrone Mings. Great performance today, and long may it continue going forward, because he's a good guy, and Yeah, and I think he's very confidence-driven and confidence-led player. So hopefully Unai Emery gets that confidence back in him again. And I want to see him playing for Aston Villa. Don't think he's going to get on the plane to Doha or to Qatar. So yeah, I want to see him get his confidence back, playing claret and blue, and drive on after the World Cup with Aston Villa and try and propel us up the league. So fair play to you, Tyrone Mings, and well done.
Yeah, I got to give Konsa his due as well. I was quite
Yeah.
critical of Konsa at the start of the season. I thought he looked a shadow of his former self, and I genuinely at one point, and I said this, thought he needed taking out the team for his own good. I think he's been better in the last month to 6 weeks anyway. But today again, he was back to the Konsa that I just remember from the lockdown season. He was coming away. He was coming out with the ball, passing the ball, running with the ball. Even
yes,
at times, he looks like he's got his confidence back, which is one thing I think he was lacking. I felt like when we were conceding goals, Konsa was kind of always on the scene of where I felt the problem was for the goal, but he's eradicated that, and I give him his due. He's come back in the last 6 weeks, and again today I thought he was excellent. My personal man of the match was Douglas Luiz. I just think he is turning into such a good footballer. Season we got promoted. He first came in and he was playing as a lone defensive midfielder. I thought he created problems for Villa. You could see he was a good footballer, but I think he's a bit rash. His decision making wasn't brilliant, and playing as a lone number 6, I think he caused us problems initially that first season. That was when I became very critical of him. I think he's had ups and downs since then. Obviously, he was great post lockdown when he came in. He'd really grown, and then I felt like he lost his way a little bit. Played games as a number 8 last season. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, but then never felt like he was particularly first choice under Gerrard. 100% absolutely should have started this season in Villa's midfield as a number 8, in my opinion, Douglas Luiz. Gerrard didn't really seem to fancy him, picked others over him. Douglas Luiz has been brilliant this season. I feel like he shoulders a lot of responsibility in that midfield now, but I feel like he can. And I just thought the way he is at the heart of everything good that Villa do. And someone tweeted me earlier saying technically he's Villa's most gifted footballer, and I think I would agree with that. Just the way he gets the ball down, operates in tight spaces, the way he passes, the weight of the pass every time is perfect. He's learned not to come charging out when he's defending. There was a couple of moments where I thought he was going to go in blood and thunder for a tackle, but he didn't. He just stuck his foot out calmly and came out with the ball. Douglas Luiz is really turning into an excellent midfield player, in my opinion. Neil, would you go along with that?
I would do. I absolutely would, and I think we're getting into the territory where our midfield obviously has been a weakness over the last 12 months. I think we've got Boubacar Kamara who comes on for the last 20 minutes.
He's a class act. He is a class act. Really is.
And as I say, you've got the likes of Dendoncker who just sucks up space and doesn't get in the ball, and literally he's not going, like, nobody's going to sit here and go, oh my god, Leander Dendoncker was, you know, he just shone out there today. But he's one of these players that you can tell to do a job. He goes and he does it, and I'd say he's a manager's dream from a lot of points of view. So what I'm getting at here is that you've got a Douglas Luiz who signed a new long-term contract, committed himself to the club. I'd say he must be smiling from ear to ear now that Unai Emery is in there, a new fresh start. He's got the security of this long-term contract, and he's actually been started in his first game for Unai Emery. So well done to Douglas Luiz. You know, he would have had every right to kind of bury his chin into his chest and not want to look up and take on the mantle, as you say, of somebody who wants to take on that role within midfield, specifically after all the bids that came in for him and deadline day. But he seems like he's got his head and his shoulders. He understands about the team ethos within this game. He's got a new manager now, and fair play to him, as I say, onwards and upwards for Douglas Luiz. But that midfield could very easily, and I don't think we're finished there. I think we might see an addition in midfield, and I think we might see an addition into the strike force over the January window.
Nice.
But it's coming nicely, and we're getting all our players back fit, and we're now seeing a change in tactic. So I think that midfield could go from being an area of, you know, concern to a solid area pretty quickly with the way that Emery can set them up.
I mean, when McGinn came on as well, he was almost operating as people talked about that Emery would kind of set with a 4-4-2, but you'd look at it and people would be in funny positions. It's almost like McGinn was playing up front.
Yeah,
when he first came up, the way that Villa were playing their formation at that point of the game, and I stress that the way they played the formation changed so many times through the course of the game. So when McGinn first came on, it was almost like he was playing alongside Watkins as a striker when he came on. I think Ramsey's days of playing as a central midfield player are perhaps over for now. I think he's going to be operating as an attacking player. You could see today with Luiz and Dendoncker, they were predominantly there to not bomb forward at all. They were there as defensive players. Dendoncker in particular, I found it fascinating how much he'd be covering off wide, even though we were playing with two central midfielders. When we were defending, the central midfielders, especially Dendoncker, they wouldn't be afraid to go wide, and then someone else would come and sit into their space. It was just so fluid and so much rotation. It was, again, I keep saying it was really interesting to watch. But you've suddenly got Kamara, Luiz, Dendoncker, McGinn potentially, especially Sanson even came on and got a couple of minutes at the end of the game. I don't think Ramsey's in the conversation for those, because I think the players I've just mentioned are. Nakamba wasn't even on the bench today, I don't think. No. I think, Ramsey's going to operate as an attacking plan now, which I think is the right move, because his best game prior to today was Man City when he was in the front three. Okay. But suddenly there is a little bit of competition in that central midfield area, and we felt it needed a refresh. And with Kamara and Dendoncker in there, we weren't sure. Dendoncker didn't really look like Gerrard knew what to do with him. To be honest, it looked like he was there, but Gerrard wasn't sure. It didn't feel like it was a Gerrard influence signing at all, or anyone that Gerrard really wanted, and he barely played. There's a good player there. He was part of a Wolves side that finished 7th in the Premier League twice in a row. He plays for Belgium. If I was a Wolves fan, I'd be pretty disappointed that he's gone now, because he's a useful player. But as I was saying, there's suddenly been a little bit of a refresh in those central areas, and Villa look all the better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like as if over time we will see players settle into those positions, as you mentioned, but still have the fluidity to move around, because Unai Emery will chop and change tactics. He will bring players on at halftime. He will change tactics at halftime, and so on. So having that fluidity, and I think Jacob Ramsey is one of those players that you can, he can wear different hats in that midfield. He can do different bits and pieces. But we haven't even mentioned it. Coutinho wasn't on the bench today. He had a strained quad. They don't know how long he's
struggle for the World Cup. I think he would have been struggling to make their squad anyway, by the sound of it. But he's not going to play again pre-World Cup, from what Unai Emery said after the game. Be interesting to see where he fits. I think he will play games, and that's the thing. I think that's important. Thursday, you may see something completely different from Unai Emery, because that's what he does. And Sunday against Brentford, Sunday against Brighton, there'll probably be a completely different game plan. The game plan, the way Villa played, was for today. That is what Unai Emery does. He changes on a game-to-game basis. He has a set plan. He makes players sit and watch hours of footage. This is what he does. The plan that Villa have executed today was specific to this Manchester United team that they were playing at Villa Park. The next two games could see something completely different from him, especially against Brighton. It could be something completely different, because they obviously play in a different way to Manchester United, and Unai Emery will have Villa set up in a way that he sees fit. They might press in a different style. They might not play with as much tempo against Brighton as they did today against Manchester United. He's going to be, if nothing else now, Neil, it's going to be interesting. And I think, when we do our pre-game shows, we'll find it very difficult to second guess what Emery does.
And that's the beauty of it. We're going to have to figure out what he does or what he's going to do. And sometimes you can come along and you can say, oh, well, if a team plays to a certain structure, a certain style, and it's and you do it well, no matter how well people know how they're going to play, you still can't counteract that. But there's going to be a lot of experimentation between now and the World Cup. And why wouldn't there be? Because he's going to try things to see if they work. And like you said there, I think Thursday is going to be something completely different as well. Like even pulling Morgan Sanson out of cold storage today, little things like that. There will be a couple of more sparks, and it won't be as perfect as today every day. It certainly won't. It won't be even between now and the World Cup. We could go out and get battered on Thursday night in the League Cup, but I suppose the biggest thing is to sit back and take it for what it is at the moment. That we've gotten a win here in his first game. Things are looking good. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs between now, but it's all about getting to that World Cup break, recalibrating, going off to Dubai, doing all the hard work with the team to get with all those players together, or whoever aren't going to be going to the World Cup. And then it's really after the World Cup where we'll strike, where Unai Emery will feel confident to strike with this team. And as I say, it has to be exciting for everybody that's out there.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on and talking to me now. It's so
if I was late.
Even though you were late, you were asleep, if we're all perfectly honest. That was why you were late, because you fell asleep. Thankfully, you did make it within the 20-minute threshold that we'd set you now. Otherwise, John, who was producing tonight, was going to have to come on. He'd watch the game, thankfully, today. But yeah, a brilliant day,
Yeah.
I've wanted us to beat Manchester United for so long. I've sat there many a time at Villa Park in complete bewilderment and disbelief at the fact that Villa have chucked away 2-goal leads or been absolutely pulverised by Manchester United over the years. So to finally beat them for the first time since 1995 at Villa Park is something that I genuinely didn't think. I mean, it was getting to the point where I was thinking, this is just never going to happen. We're just never going to be able to do it. So for us to do it, and to do it in Unai Emery's first game, and to do it in the manner that we did it as well, and the way we played, there was nothing lucky about today. Villa were the best side on the pitch, but by a country mile. Villa deserved that win. I think even the most ardent Manchester United fan would come away from that game and have been impressed with what they saw from Villa today and hold their hands up and just say, fine. Villa deserved to beat us today. It really was excellent. So, yeah, I hope everyone that was at Villa Park had as good a time as I did. And hopefully you've managed to garner some enjoyment from this show as well. Thanks to Neil. Thanks to John for stepping in and producing this evening. We'll be back with a preview for the Manchester United Cup game at some point midweek. So watch out for that. I mean, I'm not going on Thursday. I'm going to Brighton on Sunday, but not going on Thursday. But I wish I was, because tell you what, it's going to be some away end. I think there's 7,000 Villa fans going to Manchester United. That's going to be absolutely incredible. So yeah, all the best to everyone that's going to that. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope your Mondays aren't too bad. And as always, up the Villa.